Back to back calls. Give me a few minutes. Give me 5 minutes. I'll be back.
Okay.
How goes it? Where are you today?
Victoria.
How's the weather out there?
That's nice. It's probably nicer than normal, but yeah, it's this time of year it's usually pretty gray and rainy, but it seems to be
Hmm.
holding out. And
Yeah,
do you have snow?
pardon me?
Is it snowing?
No, not yet. Actually, we had some really warm weather, but leaves are almost all gone. It's getting to that same gray, dreary look.
Time to go.
Yeah, ideally, yeah, building everything so that it's I can be a digital nomad.
Exactly. Yeah. Where are we gonna go? Where are we working from next?
Southern Spain, right? So yeah, let me update you because, of course, story of my life, everything is harder and takes longer than expected since we last spoke. But I've got a committed fund manager with 93 portfolio companies to be able to implement this. So with that and refining things to make sure one change creates a ripple effect of other things, which is just a lot of changes. But getting a developer engaged to do the AI and agentic stuff, build the interfacing for the companies and the fund. So that's my pure focus right now is that's the target and building that in. So got have to refine that to then the post-secondary thing, which is the follow-on element to you afterwards, which is I hate saying it's coming. It's I
Yeah,
almost think
yeah.
it's
It's
less
no,
it's
no.
gonna get to you
You
faster.
haven't sent anything to that woman, obviously.
No,
What
no, I haven't.
what is the value proposition to the fund manager?
It is risk reduction in the having the transparency in the operations and the metrics for the portfolio companies to know that they're at a healthy state. So all the
Right.
key metrics are being measured and have an assessment of where they're at on a monthly basis. And if they wander, it goes to a red, amber, green status for that course
And
correct.
and how do they do it currently?
Um, Excel, if that, so they get Excel tables and consolidate everything, and there's no
So
single way
they
to
don't have a dashboard.
no.
Hmm.
So this creates that, and then refining that original GPT I sent you to be a more accurate marketing tool in terms of explaining the value proposition, and then as a lead magnet. So within it
Hmm.
now I've built and am building downloads it'll push to you. So it will push a short summary, and then embedded with that is a more comprehensive summary of the full value proposition, and then the ability to book a call and learn more.
Nice.
So really thinking through that customer acquisition process and going from there. So that's yeah, more or less done. And so they want to implement this next month. So getting everything
Yeah, yeah.
in, yeah, yeah, yeah. Excuse me, in a really big way of getting then thinking through everything else of the
Yeah, yeah. Well,
the
and you need a user case to break the
that's it.
to
Yeah,
break it, right? So
yeah, and getting someone
it's
to
worth
champion it, have the pilot, thinking through the pilot, and then the
yeah,
pricing and all those challenges, and then looking at different models in terms because nothing like this exists. It does in
yeah.
different ways. What does that look like? So it's a balanced win-win, and
Nice.
and the risk and incentives are shared between everybody, which
Yeah,
is the premise for it. So it's yeah,
nice.
that's where things are at, and overheating my computer.
Your local compute.
And then all the other things of getting things in onto the cloud. And
Yeah.
not being, if something fails, it can't all be housed on
Right.
computer. So I've decided I'm going to move to the Google Workspace, the professional suite, um, and then have everything there. And the beauty of that is ChatGPT can read directly into Google. So
Right. Right. Opens up another door.
it does, and so everything can be evergreen, and I don't have to worry about constantly sharing updated versions.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Well, that's a big project you took on.
It's massive. It's absolutely massive,
Mm,
and then all the operationalization of it and
yeah.
implementing and looking at it from the lens of companies, small medium companies, and from funds, and making
Yeah.
sure that everything talks with each other as it should, because the concept's really about simplicity, and how to have the least amount of effort or onus on the
Yeah.
clients or
Yeah.
stakeholders.
You need the error proofing to be doing it itself, don't you?
Yeah, and then all the messaging and marketing, and how this is everything the big four isn't, and to get people to appreciate what it is,
That's right.
to
Yeah.
make them care.
Exactly. Cool. Well, that's good.
Yeah, and that means putting aside everything else. I don't think I've checked my email in 2 days.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
Well, but it's
I think,
nice. It's nice to work on a project that has you excited too, right?
yeah, it does, and yeah, sharing this with my family in terms of, I guess, level of level of effort and the obsessiveness and what's required, and having to maintain the continuity. Otherwise, you forget things because there's so many moving pieces, and updating it and making that one tweak and how it impacts everything else.
Right, right. The ripple effect. Yeah,
Yeah. And then really just putting guardrails on for myself. If this stops here, it's at version 3. Um, that gets implemented, and anything that's version 4 will be later, and not making changes, establishing a pilot. Like, this is the end of the scope creep. Um,
please do not hallucinate.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
keep
Which is,
keep customer happy.
yeah, and just having that in the workflow to do that validation and that QA on its own, so that
Hmm.
it's not hallucinating. So it's
And are
like,
they paying you, or have you given it to them for free just to get a pilot?
no, that's part of the pricing as well. There'll be pilot pricing, and then real
Right.
implementation or MVP pricing. So at
So
first,
these guys
the thinking,
have this first client given you any money, or is it
no,
before
not
that?
yet. It's
Yeah.
only once upon implementation. So,
Oh, I see. Right. So you're going to try it out with them, and if they like it, then they can figure out.
or no, it starts with a monthly payment once
Yeah.
initiated,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Right.
then
Because they still have to give you their data, don't
yeah. And the thinking there too is, how do I create that pricing in terms of fee plus ROI based,
they?
or is it like a hedge fund and a 2 and 20 style model, or what does that look like?
Hmm.
So I've been researching different
How
scenarios.
can you maximize revenue?
Yeah, exact, but still have it, yeah, for everybody, right? Maximize
Yeah.
revenue for
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
and make it
Yeah.
at least have
Yeah.
a
Wouldn't that
guaranteed
be? Wouldn't
amount.
it be nice if you could get paid on the value? Like it's like, oh, we saved you X, therefore we're going to take Y. Instead of
And
a
that's
monthly
that's
fee.
part of the effort I'm doing, is quantifying what this replaced places in
Yeah.
internal those internal
Nice.
FTE costs and hours,
Yeah.
and the outputs it provides in terms of a quarterly report. It provides marketing,
Yeah.
messaging and strategy and um,
Yeah.
all those things. And then on the my initial thinking 2 months ago for the company side was to start with an audit, as I shared, and then have the management recommendations and the options to engage us to implement it or go and do it on their own. But that has to be baked into
Yeah.
the price. So it's just essentially a
Yeah. Nice.
subscription fee so that it's an even expenditure rate. They know what they get, and it's a minimum of 1 year. And then,
Well, this is how good companies start.
yeah,
You might have 200 employees next year.
that could possibly, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
this next month is pivotal, critical, and then I can sleep and breathe.
What do you need help with other than cooking?
Cleaning, really at this, and that's a really good question because it's all this
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah.
it's really just getting it to the place of having that baseline, and then
Yeah.
it's sprinting. So really,
Yeah.
everything on my end should be baked for the product and service, and then there'll be the implementation, and then from there
Right.
will be the support to
Excuse me.
liaise with the companies. And
Get her done.
yeah, so that's when support I'll need help and go from
Yeah.
there.
Nice.
And then on top of it is coming up with affiliate or referral
Yeah. Yeah.
pricing for people that are bringing in funds and so forth. So, or any client.
Well, and I was thinking about this a lot yesterday that there's going to be a lot of opportunity as the system collapses. So I was thinking about, like, you don't want to be too far ahead of what's going on today. So a great example of that is the educated unemployed. So there's going to be a massive um, continuation of the mid-career MBS, consultant being laid off, and the bank can't and the government can't hire them all. So there is going to be this kind of glut of people, and then with the changes in society and work and stuff. And I was kind of thinking, okay, so like, if the persona is the hybrid work from home, work
Mm,
from the office, gets laid off, they've got some severance, they're going to start looking for work. What's the what are the industries that could be, could take advantage of that don't exist today. Like, what business could you start? um and the short answer is platforms. So, like, if you think about Airbnb, Uber, what's next? Like, cooking, is it matching home cooks to people like you and I that need to be fed? um where somebody shows up with some food every day or every week. And then what do you do with all those professionals? Like, are they all going to suddenly become inside, highly trained, educated inside salespeople? And then, is there scales of economy, compared to foreign countries? Like, we were talking about this a bit yesterday with the KPMG has a massive workforce in India. So all their management consultants in North America were encouraged to utilize the South Asian labor to do to build the strategy placemats overnight while they, so it's like, is that workforce going to become domestic?
mm,
Yeah, so just trying to kind of work through, like, what is the opportunity as the economy fails, and then, you know, what's like, as opposed to waiting for the economy to kind of start reset. Obviously, money's a huge one. Like, private lending is going to be massive. I mean, everybody that wants to hang on to their house and car is going to be looking for private capital. I mean, bridge financing and third mortgages for all these homeowners that are going to get repossessed because they've lost their job and their mortgage was equal to their, one salary or whatever. So yeah, so what are all those opportunities? The other interesting thing is Victoria is kind of a mini Ottawa, and there's a labor strike on, and it's kind of it's the BCGU, so it's the uneducated working government people, and it's fascinating because what you realize, so they're all out on the street with their strike signs, and it's middle-aged women, white, like 99.9% white, 95% women,
Huh.
you know, 90% in the kind of 40 to 50 age range. And I thought, oh, that's an interesting workforce, they can't hide it because it's all out on the street, right? So you could argue
Right.
there's a whole bunch of failed DEI, like it really is very homogenized, and it's like, oh, I guess all those initiatives didn't really pan out. But you kind of think like, what would you do with that workforce? I mean, these are the people that are pushing paper all day long and sitting in front of computer terminals, processing programs, and I thought, what do you do? What are you going to do with that workforce? So it's very representational when you see it in front of your
Uh-huh.
face on the street, and they're everywhere. Like this is, it truly is a government town. Every block there's 50 of them in front of a building.
Wow.
However, they're not allowed to picket the Parliament building, which I find very interesting. So there's nobody at the Parliament building, but every other building in downtown Victoria has a picket line.
Huh.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat to see it in real time.
That's interesting. That's the demographic.
Yeah, but that whole BCGU, these are all the analysts. Like you could literally replace every one of them with AI, right? I mean, it's kind of, and if you were being a bit sarcastic, you'd be like, so, you realize being on strike, you could just like eliminate every job. It's like you're proving to society you're not that relevant.
Right.
Yeah, the world. Yeah, so we're gonna have a lot of unemployment. There'll be a lot of people looking for new work. and is
Interesting.
it and is it the platforms that are needed?
Huh.
So we're kind of, like the Canadian economy seems to be mirroring, like the Indian economy, like, that kind of idea of how are we going to employ all these people, even though it's only 30 million, it's still,
Right.
half of them are going to be unemployed in 5 years.
Yeah. And our employment stats are not, it's seeing a bellwether. Inflationary pressures, employment's jumping up, and AI revolution is going to displace a lot of jobs. What happens? I'm really curious to see what the November 4th budget details and the size, yeah, how much debt it adds to our national debt. And it,
Yeah. Well, and everybody's lobbying their own interests, right? I mean,
of course,
you see it with the universities, like, oh, you need to give us more public money for research so we can, work on productivity. It's like, well, we've been doing that for a long time, and you haven't produced anything. Why would the results be any different? And so it's like, I think if the budget just doubles down on the status quo, that's a pretty good indicator that we're not quite ready yet to
now,
to get serious about this stuff. Because I mean, and that's the other thing, like the models that need to be implemented seem to be very far away from reality. That people aren't ready for it, but it's like, yeah, we need a new operating system. That's obvious, but when's it going to be publicly accepted?
Yeah, publicly accepted and then practically implemented, which is a whole separate beast. And yeah, I'm always so curious in terms of what this landmark budget's supposed to be that Prime Minister Carney said it will be, legacy
Mm-hmm.
creating or generationally changing for Canadians, which
Yeah, yeah.
I
Well, we'll
don't have much.
we'll see. He might be. I can't imagine he's got some savior program waiting in the wings, right? Like, I think we'll probably all be very disappointed.
Yeah, yeah, and I really,
And no fault of any one person, right? Like, it's just the model. The model's done. Unless you're willing to fall on your sword and reinvent it, you know, you're just prolonging the inevitable.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, what is that? What is the industry that can benefit from the Canadian workforce? And I was thinking about, like, high touch, high tech manufacturing is where all those people in government could go work. But what is that? Are we building titanium screws for spaceships, in Victoria? Like, what does that look like? Or, because I just don't think we're going to compete on the labor costs from other countries unless there's some sort of geopolitical sovereignty act that, forces us to build things domestically. But, like, why would we build titanium screws in Canada? It's cheaper to buy them and ship them. And same as data, like, even if you had all those people working
yeah.
data. So I don't know. Yeah, that's a really big question. It's like, what do you do with the Canadian workforce?
Yeah. So all to date, for all I can think about is retraining, investment in human capital, and taking these
Hmm.
people, giving
But
them,
training in what?
and
Like, is
that's
is
it's
everybody just going to become an Uber driver? Like, that's what it feels like, right?
yeah. Don't My thinking was AI and entrepreneurship. Um, with the right incentives. I think that would come with a CERB or UBI type design,
Yeah.
but it needs to have some sort of some sort of carrot or metrics to incentivize people or
Well, I think the incentive is to come up with the ideas, right? Like, that I think is where the Canadian problem is we've got the talent, but what we don't have are the ideas. So, like, how does AI help and spit out, what is the criteria you put in the LLM to spit out, here are the entrepreneurial ideas that people should be pursuing based on their career history, and wage potential, right? Like, these high paid Canadian jobs are going to be very hard. There'll be a lot of competition for every one of them in the next couple of 10 years, next decade.
Hmm.
So I don't think people are thinking, like, this is why I keep saying, people that have real entrepreneurial minds, they're the gold. Like, they need to be treated like VIPs right now, but the transition hasn't appeared, right? We're still valuing doctors and lawyers, when that's actually an outdated concept. It's like, if you
yes,
find somebody that's like a principled entrepreneur and community minded, you need to treat them like a VIP and actually put them to, use thinking about this stuff, because otherwise, you can't expect the educated classes to come up with innovation, right?
no,
As we've seen, right? It's gotten to the point where there's too much of that, and it's the systems. Like I said, we're paying $600,000 to have a leasing agent at Mars. Like, it's out of control.
yeah. I guess that's the the big question. We don't have a
Yeah, I
crystal.
think I think that is the biggest question of this decade is what do we do with the workforce? Because it's when it fails, it's gonna be hard to recover from all those you
Yeah,
know all
absolutely.
the all the defunct real estate, all the and so instead of like just trying to figure out how to make money on it, how do you actually ease the pain and make it better? And I mean, the government's increased their hiring, but that's ended. Schools have everybody's cut off, right? Like schools did foreign students, that's been exposed and cut off. Now government's been hiring more workers, that's been exposed and cut off. So there's really not much. Banks, I guess banks are the last ones that are going to have to.
Yeah, what do you see happening with the banks?
So if you think about like banks are very powerful lobbies, I would argue the president of the Royal Bank's more powerful than the prime minister.
Yeah, that's
Um, and I think what you're going to see is you're going to see deregulation. And I think about like if this was another country, guys like Colin Deacon would be murdered or poisoned, because what's going to happen? It's like taxi licenses, right? They went from being worth $1 million to be worth zero. So if they deregulate the Canadian banking system and go to open banking and digital banking, those
mm,
big banks, I think they're going to implode overnight. Like because they're 100% based on cronyism and protection, right? Like they wouldn't exist otherwise. And
yep.
and Canada's done a very good job at protecting the banks, um, which probably was important for the first 100 years, but they probably should have started thinking about this stuff in the 70s. So by now it would have already taken place and been eased in, right? But it's going to come at a drastic point where they're going to have to deregulate. There'll be just too much foreign pressure, and then they'll just collapse overnight. And that will be the real devastating.
Oh yeah, that's
Like to me, if you think about it that way, I mean that's a national emergency,
it
right?
is.
And protecting them isn't the answer because that's just prolonging the inevitable.
It is, and I think if there's any lessons learned from 2008 was allowing companies to fail and force
Yeah,
them to innovate.
yeah. So local self determination is the answer. We have to while everybody's trying to centralize, we need to decentralize. And so you're fighting inertia because the federal government and the banks don't want to decentralize, and even credit unions are amalgamating, where it's like, to me, the credit union models failed because credit unions were successful because they were giving loans to people that couldn't get traditional bank loans. And now if they amalgamate, they'll just be another bank. And so they basically have failed the member because
Mhm.
their real core mandate was issuing lending to basically immigrants, and working class people, right? So I think local self determination is that's where I'd put my bet and my energy, and that's about building community and building local wealth. So, you're controlling your energy grid, you're controlling your utilities, you're controlling all of that. And that would be great, except, people like Mark Carney sure as hell don't want to decentralize, right? I mean, they're the opposite. But yes, local self-determination for sure.
Huh.
I think that's the only way out of this. Because there's nothing in the current model that says it's going to improve. It's all saying it's going to implode, right?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the right people are heeding that.
No, it's still very novel and fringe.
And maybe maybe it takes that implosion, which is how I think how I see things happening. Um, is that implosion, and in 2 years, year and a half, new government and really innovative innovative policy that is what we need. And
Yeah. Well, and
and
that's the whole anti-fragile model, right? That that what we're doing now is we're trying to reduce the pain and suffering for people that have bet their lives on going to university and getting a job and contributing to society and being a good taxpayer and not criminals. So, we're trying to prevent the pain and suffering for that class of people. But the reality is, at some point, they're going to have to be put in the hot seat. That's just political. I mean, it's politically unfeasible for the current political parties, but somebody's got to do it. Right? The middle
yeah,
class is going to have to collapse. So a natural disaster would be the best case scenario because then everybody, so we have to like create a natural disaster because it's really hard to sell the public on, unemployment is a national crisis. They're like, yeah, no, I don't see any buildings falling, there's, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's hard to sell. Right. And it's kind of interesting. Like I was listening to the Premier of BC talk about subsidies for the forest workers because of the tariffs. So he's basically making an argument to the feds that the federal government should bail out the lumber sector in BC as they do the automotive sector in Ontario. And he's kind of crying foul that, because the auto workers are closer to Ottawa, the government's favoring them. And what about the forestry workers in BC? And I was kind of like, wow, that's a hard sell because there are so many people in so many sectors unemployed or becoming unemployed. It's like, hey, dude, like, sure, the forestry workers need subsidies, but guess what? So does the food industry. So does so does it's like every industry in BC would need SERP. Yeah, the canary in the coal mine is coming very quickly.
Yes.
But yeah, so why should those guys get subsidies and then all the other unemployed people aren't? It's like, sorry, I mean, it's the same as these guys striking right now. It's like, I just can't imagine very many people have sympathy for a government union strike. It's like, yeah, no, everybody's feeling the pinch. Sorry.
As they shouldn't, and they're
Uh,
insulated to a degree where they won't feel the ramifications of this technology advance for a while because of the
yeah,
unions, their power, and talking to
yeah,
friends in government and their just lack of use of technology, understanding it, incentivized to use it to create efficiencies. And
sure. They're repelling it. You can see the worker like smashing the box in the basement so it doesn't come up to their floor. Yeah, yeah,
under the last decade, I think the federal public service grew by 20%. 20%. And if you factor in salaries, benefits,
yeah,
accommodation space, you're looking at about $200,000 a year per person. So the tens of thousands of extra people of just waste, and
yeah. Well,
they're
and now we
talking
have a what, a 14% unemployment rate for youth. Like recent graduates. So I mean,
God,
so that adds to it. Where all those people, I'm sure all those recent grads that can't find a job are like, we'll take the job, we'll take lower pay. Yeah, it's an interesting. But there's always opportunity out of crisis, right? And
always,
and of course
always.
you're working on that with this, but what are those big opportunities? I mean, I think lending is buying low and sitting on it. Lending, those are the big ones. I have a friend. I'll give you. This is a crazy thing. So, a buddy of mine worked for a Traverse, and they were a lender for commercial equipment. So like if you wanted to buy a bunch of excavators, you'd go to these guys to borrow the money.
Okay.
So he was just, like he was an ex-RCMP, retired at 50 or 55, got this job being a leasing agent, private money, did that. And then he realized when there was like a down in the construction industry that he could buy equipment for like 10 cents on the dollar, and he would store it in warehouses, and he hired a mechanic and a kid, and they cleaned them up and polished them up. And like at one time I think he owned 200 excavators, and it was all money that he borrowed, like it wasn't his money. And he had like all these warehouses full of industrial equipment because he'd go to the auction and pay nothing for them because nobody was buying them, right? Like there was no demand. And then when the demand picked up, because they can't manufacture commercial equipment quick enough,
Hmm.
he'd show up at like Logan Lake Copper Mine and say, here's my portfolio of machines, which would you like? And they'd buy like half his inventory instantly because they couldn't wait the 3 years it takes to acquire it from the new equipment, right? And he
Yeah.
basically I think he had two good rounds of that and then just retired. But like, he made like $15 million, on one transaction kind of thing. So there's stuff like that, like like vehicles, right? I mean, you could just buy up all the
Huh.
liquidated, all the people that are going to get repoed. I mean, I would say that's going to be the first indicator is when all those, you know, people that leased or bought a car with $1,000 a month car payment suddenly are unemployed. Like they're going to hit the block quickly. And then, of course, luxury items like boats and summer homes, like you can kind of see the trajectory. Right? It's not like, I mean, this has happened in our lifetime twice. So it's like, if you're not, I always say, go to the Tony neighborhood. What's the rich neighborhood in Ottawa?
Rockcliffe Park.
So go to drive around Rockcliffe every 2 weeks, and when you start seeing like for sale signs on speedboats, the economy's tanking. And it's like truly an indicator, right? When those people
It
start,
is. Yeah.
because they're all nouveau riche entrepreneurs that buy toys. So when you start seeing their for sale signs on all the toys in the driveway, it's time to go on a buying spree.
Buy,
Yeah,
store, wait. So
yeah, exactly.
finding that
Yeah,
capital or that lending partner to be able to support you.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's there's lots of room for investment, on the, like I said, buy low and sit on it.
Then, yeah, depends on how that is servicing the debt and
It's all math.
it is. It is. It is.
Yeah, yeah,
Math and sales.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and yeah, you make the money on buying, I mean that's where the money's being made, is when you're buying it. But that must have been a pretty fun business. I mean, can you imagine buying an excavator for like $25,000 and then reselling it for $300,000 2 years later? Like, you know, yeah.
Wow.
There's lots of those niches though.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, yeah. But it's going to be a few more months. I think now's the time to just start stockpiling the cash, and then next September it'll be. I think it's going to be pretty crazy. I'm curious what's going to happen with housing because there's a surplus now of, you can see it in every city. They've overbuilt the condo market, and now nobody's buying them, so they're all going to get discounted, especially in small towns. In the rural, like the Blue Mountain, and what's that town called? By Blue Mountain?
In Ontario,
It's where the ski hill is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to say
Places like
Cambridge.
places like places like that, will suddenly have a surplus of townhomes for sale.
Yeah.
And because those are all small family businesses that are developing, they can't hold the pain, right? So those guys that are building 5 houses at a time have done, they're going to start needing to sell
Mhm.
quickly. What is that town called? Isn't it? Anyway,
I'm gonna
well,
look
I
it up.
should let you get back to work.
Yeah, I will, and I really, yeah, I just want to get this polished and done, and
Yeah, yeah.
sit back and
It was fun to play with it last week. Like I mean, I get it.
and
That
that's
was
yeah,
cool.
it's I'll share it once I've just finished updating that the GPT, get you to play with it and see um,
Yeah,
get your
yeah, I
feedback
like it. It's
and
fun.
good. Yeah, try
All
to
right.
let me know what doesn't work, and yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I'll,
Well, get back to work.
okay, we'll do it. Thanks,
We'll see
Peter.
you later. Yeah,
Okay,
nice
bye.
chatting. Bye.